If you're going to share this wireframe with other designers, you run into the possibility that they don't have Font Awesome, which means they then wouldn't be able to render these icons that we just created. A good idea is to convert them to shapes before you send this wireframe off to anybody. And the process is relatively straightforward. What you want to do is select the type layer here inside the Layers panel. Then all you have to do is come up to the Type menu. And from the Type menu, you can then choose Convert to Shape. Once you do that, you'll notice that that layer turns into a shape layer. You can turn off the visibility, and here you could rename this Twitter because it's the Twitter icon. Now, the great thing about this being a shape is it's a vector shape, essentially, so you could scale it infinitely. If I use the free transform command, which is Command-T on the Mac, Control-T on Windows, you can click and drag and scale this any way that you want to, and once you press Return or Enter, you'll notice it's nice and crisp. I'll go ahead and undo that, Command-Z or Control-Z. The other thing that you could consider doing is creating your own shape library. That way, if you're working with a team of designers, they would have access to all of these icons as well. How do you do that? Well, I have a blank document over here, and what I'm going to do is come back to the Font Awesome website, to the cheat sheet, and find a couple different icons. Maybe I want this like icon. I'll go ahead and copy it to my clipboard, Control-C, that would be Command-C on the Mac. Then I'll choose the Type tool, and I'll paste that, Control-V on Windows, Command-V on the Mac. We'll go ahead and grab a few others. I'll come over to the Font Awesome website again. I'll find a different icon. This time I'll go with this YouTube icon. Again, I'll go ahead and copy it to the clipboard. I'll come back to Photoshop. I'll create a separate type element, and I'll go ahead and paste it. So you can go through and create all your own custom shapes, and ultimately you can save those shapes. Now, one thing that I want to point out is if you come down here inside the Tools panel and choose the Custom Shape tool, with this tool, you'll notice that there's a library of custom shapes, and there's all sorts of different shapes that you can load in based upon these categories. This happens to be a custom shape that I just created from Font Awesome. Now, what's great about this is I can select it, and with it selected, I just click and drag out a Windows icon. So it's really easy to use. But what we want to do is convert these into shapes that we can add to our custom shape library. So the process is a little bit different than converting it to a shape. You would come over and select the layer, and with the layer selected, you would then come up to the Type menu, and from the Type menu, you would choose Create Work Path instead of Convert to Shape. Once you do that, with the work path selected, you can then come up to the Edit menu, and from the Edit menu, you can choose Define Custom Shape. And I'll go ahead and call this Like. I'll go ahead and click OK. And I'll do the same thing now for this YouTube icon. Again, I'll come up to the Type menu, and from the Type menu, I'll choose Create Work Path. Then, with that work path selected, we'll come back to the Edit menu, and from there, we'll choose Define Custom Shape. And I'll go ahead and call this YouTube. Maybe I'll spell it right. That will be helpful. So once you do that, I'll come over and click OK. You'll notice, if we come over and choose the Custom Shape tool, that those shapes are now available. At this point, you would have the ability to come over and save these shapes. If you save the shapes, you'll save it as a CSH file, and you'll be able to share this file with anyone else who uses Photoshop. They'll then have the ability to open up this custom shape library and have access to all the shapes that you create with Font Awesome. So that's an important workflow that you should be aware of if you're going to be working with these custom icon fonts. You may, inside of Photoshop, want to create custom shapes, even save out a shape library. That way, if you're working with a team of designers, they have access to all the same icon artwork that you have.